Welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have a very exciting and fun pre-show to the Joshua Pagan, Bryan Jimenez, Salita Promotions card for tomorrow night. Today we're joined by two of us today. Naji from Cigar Talk will be here. How are you, Naji?
Great, man. Great. Man, it's freezing out here in Grand Rapids, but nonetheless, I'm excited. We have some great fights that I'm looking forward to talking about today. How about you, Adam? How are you, man?
Doing well. Again, Adam Abramowitz from Saturday Night Boxing Ring Magazine. I'm looking forward to this card. Nazi's going to be doing the commentating tomorrow night. I'll be the unofficial scorer. I think there's some good fights in the card, some legitimate matchmaking, a couple of undefeated prospects looking to make their way in the sport. So I think there's a lot to talk about. One of the things we do, and we're going to get into the fights tonight, the main matchups, but Naji and I know that some of you may know us, and Naji and I met last week for the first time, and we're getting to know each other too. We'd love to give you a little bit of background about ourselves and how we came to be. So let me ask you, Naji, you play interviewer, and then I'll go the other way. But, so I understand that you're originally in the music business and, have gotten into boxing and have just done terrific interviews. But if you could tell us a little bit about your journey, about how you got here and how that's all worked for you, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, yes, I am currently still in the music business. That is my day job. I am the vice president of urban strategy at Sony Orchard. So Sony Orchard is Sony's independent distribution, and essentially I oversee all the hip hop and R&B releases there. So from signing artists to overseeing their campaigns and making sure that everything is running smoothly as far as the marketing, as far as the rollouts are concerned. So I just oversee and put out a lot of fires. My other love besides music is boxing. Those are the two loves, music and boxing. And I started a podcast in the end of 2017, titled Cigar Talk. And at the time, I was interviewing artists, mainly rappers. Some of your favorite rappers have probably been on my show. I've interviewed people like Nicki Minaj, 50 Cent, Little Dirk. All the big rap names have made an appearance on my show. And as I started to elevate in the music world, it just became a little redundant, and it was just a little tough to kind of navigate both music and media. So with that being said, I chased my passion, my other passion, which is boxing, and I've been doing that for about 2 years now, where I'm just interviewing everyone who resonates in the sport of boxing. And I love this thing. So if you haven't heard of me, check me out. My name is Naji. I have a podcast called Cigar Talk. I'll be commentating tomorrow on this great fight. And I'm just a boxing fan like everybody in here, man. So Adam, how about you, man?
Yeah, and I'll get into in a second, but you really have done some great interviews, especially with some fighters that have had reputations of not always, being forthcoming or tough to draw out. And I think you've done a really good job of getting people, in particular. I know some of your work with Terrence Crawford, Shakur, like these are people that, have had reputations or of not being easy interviews, which is either founded or unfounded, but for whatever reason, they really respond to you. So congratulations on doing what you're doing. My problem is a little different. My problem was I can't enjoy anything on like a basic level. Like I have to like get into it and like dig into it. So I was 30 or 31, and I'm sorry to everybody, I'm not 30 or 31 anymore. But many years ago,
Adam, I couldn't tell.
Right. I had a writing background once upon a time. My first couple jobs out of college was speech writing. I was actually in politics for a little bit, was in healthcare consulting for a long time, and still do some of that. But I don't know. I just I got more and more involved in boxing, and I can't just let that be. I felt like there was a big void of, you'd see how other sports would get covered, whether it was the NFL or the NBA. You had someone writing an article about like the game story, what happened. And there was always an article, especially in the NFL, about, well, why? What, how were the Seahawks be able to beat the Patriots? Not like it happened. You know, there was no like analysis in a lot of the writing I was reading about boxing at the time. It was either, you know, this fighter signed with this promoter, or this fighter won by 6th round knockout, and that was it. It was like a little more depth, a little more insight. You know, I was just interested. I was very big into baseball growing up, where there was that analytics revolution, and, you know, really talking about different ways into the sport. And for me, it was just about like digging into like the how and the why. Why was this fighter successful? You know, how was he able to do it? How were they able? So I just kind of wrote about that more so, and I kept following it. And I've been doing it since 2011 on my site, SaturdayNightBoxing.com. I've had an opportunity to interview lots of people, write about the sport. I have two bi-monthly columns now for Ring Magazine. One is How to Watch Boxing, which kind of break down concepts like, you know, stop taking a picture or other things like that that people are talking about on the broadcast. We did a big article on ring generalship and what that means. And then the other one is about promoter spotlights. I want to talk about kind of the up and coming promoters in the sport. And, you know, I've had a chance to talk with Dimitri many times over the years, and so I'm happy to be working on this card. So anyway, that's my backstory. I'm happy to be a part of a good card tomorrow. So
I love that. You're a great writer, by the way, Adam. Your writing is excellent.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So tomorrow is a very interesting card. Joshua Pagan is fighting at home in Grand Rapids, and he had a really tough fight with Malik Montgomery last time, where he looked good. Montgomery was supposed to be more athletic, was supposed to have more power, you know, more speed, everything, and yet Pagan not only wins by stoppage. It's a very interesting fight. He's a different type of opponent in Bryan Jimenez tomorrow. Gimenez is 18-2 from Nicaragua. I know you saw the Malik Montgomery fight. What were your impressions of Pagan on that night?
You know, that fight in particular, you know, that was a bloodbath, man. That was a good old-fashioned, gory bloodbath sort of match. Malik Montgomery got cut, I believe, in the 2nd round. He had a pretty bad cut over his eye, and it bled profusely throughout the entire duration of the fight. And I think that the blood actually, it changed the dynamic of the fight, both on Montgomery's side, who sort of became more aggressive and seeing the blood, and, you know, sort of doctors coming to his corner, warning him, hey, we might have to stop this thing. He became more aggressive. There was so much blood, you know, the blood was all over JJ Pagan, right? Like the blood kind of made a difference in, you know, sort of his fight game and his strategy. But what I saw out of Pagan in that fight, he showed a lot of grit and determination. Montgomery's a guy that throws a lot of volume with his shots. He likes to come forward and really pound the pavement. And Pagan, in the midst of all of that, he was able to keep it smooth, keep it tight. He kept his jab working, and he was able to box under duress. And I think it showed a great deal of character. And it showed that, you know, this guy is graduating from prospect to contender. I think that was his moment that he officially entered the WBO rankings. I think he's number 11 now. But that was a statement win. And I think that JJ Pagan is on a route where he's now looking to start to get it to the guys in the top 10 of the WBO with that win. So I'm super excited, man. How did you see that fight?
You know, I think, although Pagan was a good amateur, so I want to preface that. Like, I believe he did win a couple of national tournaments. It wasn't like he was this complete diamond in the rough. With that said, you look at him and you're like, he's not a big puncher. He's not lightning quick. You know, he's one of those guys whose intangibles are very important to him, right? He's probably better than the sum of his parts. You don't look at any one skill he has. He has no A-plus punch. He doesn't have a big knockout weapon. He only has 5 knockouts in 14 fights. You keep watching him. I've probably seen 5 or 6 of his fights by now. And he just, over time, as the rounds build up, he separates himself. You know, he's very quick. He's very accurate. You know, he has good lateral movement, even if he's not the quickest person. Like, he just knows his way around the ring. He's very smart. So a lot of those things I think are not obvious. I remember when I interviewed Dimitri Salita about Pagan many, many years ago, and he said he was talking about a number of his prospects. And he said, I like Pagan, but I like him more and more each time I see him. But I think I know exactly that. Like, he doesn't wow you like some of the other guys. But the more you see him, like, this is a very smart fighter with a lot of different skills that can do a number of things in the ring. He's good. He's a solid guy.
I agree. Like you said, he's constantly, you can see the progression, in his game. But again, I was more just intrigued by the poise. I think certain guys like a Montgomery are able to speed you up and take you out your comfort zone.
Completely.
And I think that he showed a great deal of patience and poise to not get flustered in the middle of this type of bloodbath fight. And this brings us to the fight tomorrow, right? He's fighting a guy in Bryan Jimenez, who I don't want to say necessarily fights like Montgomery, but is also a tough come forward guy, right? He's going to look to muck it up. He's going to look to close the distance, and I think he knows and he's aware that he won't be able to outbox JJ Pagan. So he's going to get in there and try to make it nasty. So I want to see again, what has Pagan been able to take from that last fight with Montgomery to apply it to this fight? Again, this guy's he's a tough Nicaraguan, man. He's got a chin. It's hard to stop him, and he's going to be coming forward all night.
I watched Gimenez had this fight last year with an undefeated American fighter named Shamar Canal, who actually is from New York but fights a lot in Louisiana. It was like a war. It was a fantastic fight that Gimenez lost. But you look at the first 4 rounds of the fight, and Gimenez looks so slow, and you're like, there's no way this is going to be a walkover. And he's that classic pressure fighter who, if you allow him time, think about like Margarito or some of these other guys, Maidana even, if you allow them to build up a head of steam and you can't get rid of them or you can't dominate or discourage them, they keep coming. They keep coming, and so in the first or second round where he can't get through with punches, by the 5th or 6th round, he's there right on top of the opponent and going to town to the body. It's a good opponent because I don't think he's the athlete that Montgomery was. I don't think but I think he's probably a little more comfortable in his style. I mean, Montgomery was so frantic, it's like he was throwing all these punches but missing, you know what I mean? I think Gimenez is a little more comfortable in his style. What I'm looking for tomorrow is, can Pagan kind of separate himself from making this the style fight? Can he get a little space? Can he use lateral movement? Can he box a little bit? Or is he going to get dragged into another war? Because I think that's, what everyone wants to see about Pagan. It's like, okay, you can win this style of fight, but can you box to the best of your abilities? Because he has that ability, and can he take an opponent he's kind of like a walk down pressure fighter, and separate himself that way.
And I totally agree. This sport that we love, it's not just about the outcome, it's how. And I think that JJ Pagan's how is very important toward getting these next level guys, right? Like the guys that are right above him. You have Jadier Herrera, you have Floyd Schofield, you have William Zepeda. These guys are only a few slots above him in the WBO rankings. And in order to start pulling the bigger names that he wants, and he's made clear that that's what he wants, these are the type of guys that I would like to see him pressing for a stoppage, right? Like, and again, like you said earlier, Pagan isn't necessarily a guy that has like tremendous power, but I think when you are the better boxer and you are somebody that has the better IQ, I would like to see him press the gas and try to maybe see if he can get him out of there late. What I see from Gimenez, he's an underrated body puncher. He throws these like sneaky hooks to the body that I've seen in his past fights that I want to see how JJ deals with that. The other part about Gimenez that I saw was he's not easy to stop. I say all of this, he's not easy to stop. He's been stopped once, but it was a controversial stoppage. Very early stoppage. He contested it. The crowd booed.
It was many years ago, too. It was many years ago.
Yeah. So it's not an easy task, but I think that that's the separation that I would like to see from Pagan in this fight, because it seems like from a skill level, he's above Gimenez. So I would like to see him pressing for a stoppage toward the end. And listen, man, this is Grand Rapids, his own stomping grounds. You got a lot to prove.
Yep, I hear you. The second fight of the night, which is very interesting, I think, is Carolyn against Delfoon Persoon. And so for a vacant title at
Yep.
130 pounds, this division is still very much ruled by Alicia Baumgartner. She has all the other titles. This
Sure.
title did become vacant. Persoon actually recently fought Baumgartner and was losing in a fight, and the fight was stopped prematurely because of cuts.
Yep.
And but Persoon obviously is 41, has had an amazing career. You know, was a titleist, had those 2 memorable fights with Katie Taylor, has 20 knockouts in female boxing, which you do not see a lot. Has a lot of power. Ver was an Olympian originally from France, now fights out of Montreal. Really good boxing skills, obviously a lot younger, fresher, but it's a good matchup. I like it. What's your initial take on the fight?
You know, this is the classic style matchup that we love, right? It's the boxer versus the aggressor. That's what we're getting here. Like you said, Carolyn Ver, she's very well schooled, right? Good jab, keeps the distance, uses a lot of angles. You could tell her amateur background and pedigree is very extensive. You could just see it in the work that she does. Not a lot of power, right? I think 11 fights, no knockouts. But again, she's a very schooled fighter. And then conversely, we have she said when I spoke to her today, she said Persoon. She said Delphine Persoon. I was saying Persoon, but
let's go with that.
So Delphine Persoon, she, you know, this woman has been she's been on the pound for pound list before, right? Like you said, 50 fights, 3, you know, the experience here, I believe, is going to play a factor. You know, I would like to see, she's just a come forward motor fighter. She sort of like Gimenez has to muck it up. She's got to get inside. She's got a big right hand, a big overhand right that she likes to use.
It hits on the temple.
Absolutely.
You know, it's and those types of fighters sometimes give well-schooled boxers trouble because it's a style they don't see a lot, and especially if they're well executed. So I was writing down from my notes, you know, keys to that fight. And one of the things that I think Ver needs to do is not back out in straight lines, because Persoon can land something big over the top, you know, pulling out. She has a lot of power and a lot of awkwardness. So I don't think Persoon is, she needs to land something hard. And if she can get Ver hurt, she needs to finish her. Because I think at this stage, at 41, she's also been a little inactive. I don't want to make it sound like I'm too tough on her. I mean, I think she's a very good case to make the Hall of Fame. Like, she's a very accomplished, you know, impressive boxer. But she's 41. She's been through a lot of fights. She needs to make it ragged and, you know, be opportunistic. I don't think she's going to win a boxing match. I don't think she's going to win a jabbing contest. But she might land something really hard.
Definitely possible. I'm looking to see, like you said, she's 41 years old. I want to see how her body holds up. I know a part of, you know, you mentioned the fight with Alicia Baumgartner. You know, she got knocked down. I believe that was the second round. Again, it was stopped due to a cut, but she had a knee brace on. I think she said she tore, you know, maybe 6 weeks prior to the fight, she had tore a ligament in her knee. And, you know, we start to see that when you get up in age, you know, just the wear of the body, the wear and tear that the sport takes on you. So I just want to see, one is how her body holds up at this age. But number 2, how is the motor, right? Like, does she still have the same level of stamina to really like pour the pressure on, right? Because again, yes, these are 2-minute rounds. However, you know, the amount of pressure that she's going to need to put on to have any sort of effect on Ver, you know, it has to be coming forward. It's got to be the rugged Persoon that I'm used to seeing. So now I'm excited for this one.
I'm still a little bitter because I thought she won at least one of the fights against Katie Taylor. You know?
She thought that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame. I mean, in a weird way, it did a lot for her career anyway. But it would have been, you know, those were really close fights. Those were very good fights. They were very close fights. You know?
Hold on, so, well, Adam, let me ask you this though: do you see a world where she's able to get a decision, or do you feel like she has to get a stoppage in order to win this thing?
Well, I'll put it to this way. I think she needs to hurt Ver. She needs to probably get it. She needs to hurt her. She needs to get her down, or, you know, get to her point where the power has to come into play, because she's not going to win this by boxing. Ver is too quick, you know, at this point, and you you know, she almost looks like a female Bivol, you know, in terms of the in and out style of the, you know what I mean? Like it's just a very fundamental boxing. Like you could just immediately see the stance, how well she carries stuff. Like, wow, this person's well trained and understands their style very well. And so that's my thought on it.
I mean, I also just want to add that, you know, even though she has 11 fights, Vera, that is, she still has a lot of amateur experience in the fact that she sparred, you know, she's had fights with Michaela Mayer. She's fought.
Oh yeah, she beat her.
Taylor. Yeah, amateurs. You know I mean, so yeah. She has a lot of these names on her resume. Granted, it was the amateurs, but she still has world level experience. So, man, this is going to be a great one. I can't wait for this.
Good, it's a good fight. Very good fight. Our third fight is going to be a showcase fight. There's no point about beating around the bush. It is Garrett Rice, who's 1-0 with 1 KO against Charles Scott Jr. Salita recently signed Garrett Rice, who was a decorated amateur. He's from he fights out of Flint, you know, in a very famous gym. He knows Clarissa Shields. Chris Bird used to fight in that gym. I mean, there's a big boxing background. He was a very good amateur in Detroit. There is a lot of footage of him from like 2017, 2018. Like he's been a top amateur for many, many years. Dimitri really likes him. You know, he thinks he's really good hand speed. His one pro fight is on YouTube and available. And if you get a lot of those out of those 18 seconds, good luck. Yeah, that's pretty much how fast that went. He landed like 3 shots and that was that. Yeah. So then you have to go back to 2018 to really find footage. And at that point in time, you know, he's like 16, 17 or whatever. So Dimitri's very excited about him. He signed him. You were in the fighter meetings today. I don't know if you had a chance to talk to him. He goes by Baby G, has good hand speed and power. What was your impressions with him?
Yeah, you know, Baby G, he mentioned, that was one thing he mentioned. He said flat out, listen, these guys can't deal with my speed. And that's what he's bringing to the table, right? As a guy that, you know, he's 1-0, but again, the hand speed has been such a differential all the way from the amateurs to now the pro level. I'm excited to see how he's learning the pro game, right? Yeah. He definitely has, you know, the intangibles in terms of, like we said, the physicality, the hand speed. But I like to see, you know, how he progresses in terms of, you know, varying speeds, you know what I mean? Not just throwing everything fast, starting to place the shots a little bit. And I think that, you know, the transition from amateur to pros is what I'm looking to see out of G. But this guy, his opponent, I believe is it Charles Scott? Is it?
Yes.
I got the name, Charles Scott. He's not gonna just lay down in one round in 18 seconds like this other guy. Yes. You know, he told me, Charles Scott in the fighter meeting, he said, listen, I took this fight. I watched a lot of tape on him and I see things that I could take advantage of. This is what he told me. So I think this one is going to be interesting, man. I think overall, Baby G has a high ceiling. Like you said, Dimitri Salita is very, very enthusiastic about him, as he should be. But I'm looking to see how the young man performs. This is definitely a step up from the last one.
Yeah,
the record may not show it, but when you watch Charles Scott, he's definitely better than the last guy.
I also think it's worth saying, and we're going to talk about this in the next fight, that if things go well for Rice tomorrow, Dimitri's already going to have him fighting later this month on the Clarissa Shields card.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Dimitri has said is that if you're a young fighter, we're going to keep you really active. And, you know, which I'm sure is music to the ears of a lot of fighters who are not getting fights. And we're going to talk about that. And I think we've said what we need to say from the third fight, but the fourth fight in the broadcast is a very interesting fight. And I think that's one we really, so this is Stardia Simmons against Jonathan Rice. And Stardia Simmons is a very interesting story. He's 5-0 with 3 KOs. Now, he won the Golden at heavyweight. He won the Golden Globes twice. There was a 9-year gap. Okay, he literally won in 2016 and in 2025. He's 32. He did not turn pro until he turned 31. We're like, well, what happened here? And there is that question. Yep. He basically took 4 years off from the sport, and he had rotator cuff surgery on both shoulders.
Yep.
It didn't go well. from what I've been able to gather, he had lost his love for the sport and he kind of fell out, and then he kind of got back in and worked his way all the way back. He turned pro last year after winning the Golden Gloves, and Salita Promotions gave him 5 fights in like the last 6 months of the year. And so now he's fighting again. And he's in with a legitimate guy named Jonathan Rice, which is not – there are 2 Johnny Rices at heavyweight. Yeah. There is the Johnny Rice that beat Guido Vianello. This is a different one. This is Jonathan Lee Rice out of Texas, who's 5-3.
Yep.
But even that doesn't even give the full story, because Jonathan Rice has been keeping very busy in the Team Combat League over the last 15 months, fighting very good fighters 1 round at a time. He's also already been in the ring with Tristan Kalkruth, who's one of the Golden Boy's strong cruiserweight prospects. Rice has been fighting, right around 200 pounds, maybe a little further up and a little further down. And Stardia Simmons is about 220, 218, so he's not a huge heavyweight.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in this fight. Dimitri told me, he said, I need to find out if this guy's going to be good. I mean, Stardia Simmons, and fast. So we're going to move him, and we're going to give him a capable guy who's gone the distance in every single one of his fights and has a little bit of ring craft. I'm looking forward to this. How do you see it?
Adam, I think this has the chance to steal fight of the night. I think that this is a great clash of styles. And like you said, in talking to Stardia Simmons at the fighter meeting, he mentioned that, he tore both rotator cuffs, needed surgery. It didn't necessarily go the way it took him a while to actually rehab it. But he said one of the things that he said was, your body's always going to be different after surgery, but I also had to do other things to compensate for that. And he said, my IQ got better. I got smarter. I started studying the game more. Yeah. And, he's starting to look to, more the cerebral aspect and utilizing his jab and angles and trying to figure out how he can be crafty, not just only physical, especially with those things. But then on the other side, like you said, his opponent, man, I like his story. He comes from backyard wrestling. He's a backyard fighter. He was like, I was doing YouTube videos on the Kimbo Slice cards, doing backyard fights. And this guy just likes to fight, man. He's nasty. He just has a nasty streak about him. And like you said, when you watch his fights, even the losses, they're competitive losses, and he's a tough guy. He can take punishment and dish it right back. So
he's a good jab too. Rice has a good jab. He uses his left hand very well. One of the interesting things about this fight is both fighters like their jabs. And another thing about Simmons is he is a southpaw. So you always have to pay attention to heavyweight southpaws. There aren't a ton of them. Some southpaws are very good at landing their jab on orthodox fighters, and some are not. So I think that's going to be really interesting, who can land their jab. And then also, what happens if somebody can't land their jab? What does Rice do if his jab's not working? What does Simmons do if his jab's not working? I've watched some tape on Simmons, and one of my comments about him is I'm not fully sure yet what his ring identity is, which is fine. He's 5 fights in. Sometimes he's on the front foot, being really aggressive, going after guys. Sometimes he's more of a boxer. I've seen him, back up too. So I'm not really sure. And I know it looks like he could do a bunch of things. He actually has surprisingly good, he's good lateral movement. He has a variety of skills. I don't know if he's a huge puncher, but I need to figure out a little bit more. I think he's learning his style and what works best for him. But there's a lot to work with there, and he's in with a real opponent. I think it's a very good fight.
I like how you said that. I do think, he has a bunch of different things that I've seen him bring to the table, right? Like when he's utilizing his jab, he has a pretty good jab. I see he likes to counter as well. Like you said, I've seen him operate on the front foot, operate on the back foot. I don't know if he does any one thing great as of yet. But again, that there's definitely a lot of tools there from what I'm seeing. But I just think that this fight is going to be one where his opponent Rice is he's gonna come forward without abandon. He's made it clear to me in the fighter meeting, I'm going at him. That's it. That's period, point blank. I'm gonna go at him. And when you've watched his past fights, he's not just talking. This is what he does.
He's an aggressive fighter, but he's not like a goon. Like he knows how to fight. He apparently was hitting up Dimitri over the years to be an opponent, meaning give me some fights, give me fights, you know. And so Dimitri's like, okay, here you go. Here's my 5-0 heavyweight. Go get him. So I think it's a good fight, and I'm very it's a nice card tomorrow. I think with Simmons, with Pagan, with Rice. I just think there's a lot to like on the card. I think the Persoon fight against Bear is it's a good card. So I'm looking forward to it. We also have to give a real quick plug. There is that Clarissa Shields fight card coming up later on in this month, which is, I looked at the full bout sheet today. That's a very nice card too. So there's a lot of fun things.
You know, and also in support of women's boxing, I believe 6 of the 11 fights on the card are women. Women's fights. So, man, that's going to be a great one. I definitely got to come back to Michigan for that one. I'm super excited. Clarissa Shields versus Franchon Cruz Dezern. Adam, that's what. Listen, they already rumbled once. I got to see it again.
I got to get a shout out to my Atif Olberton from Philadelphia, who's on the card. He is a light heavyweight. I think he's probably a contender by now. He was on Showbox a number of years ago. He was recently signed to a co-promotional deal, Dimitri Salita. I think those who know him in Philadelphia know he's a very talented light heavyweight, and he's in a real fight against Joseph George. So there's some really good matchups on this card, and some very good fighters, both champion level, and I know he has Price Taylor on the card, who's a heavyweight that Salita likes a lot. Samantha Worthington is an undefeated fighter from Flint who's on the card. So I think there's a lot of things to like on that card as well.
Totally agree. Adam, let me ask you this. Just back to the fight tomorrow.
Yeah.
Where do you see JJ Pagan going from here if he's able to get the W? Like I said, I think he's on the fringe contender level. You know, he just, to me, the last fight was the graduation from prospect to contender. Where do you see him going from here? What names would you like to see him at, within the ring?
Well, as you say, the how's very important. Does he get the win tomorrow? Does he look good doing it? Is it a clean win? Listen, I think somebody like Schofield would be really interesting because Schofield, does that happen next? I'm not saying it does happen.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think Schofield probably is a little higher up the rankings, maybe looking for a title shot or for a vacant spot. But I don't think they're different fighters. Schofield's more explosive. Pagan is just one of those fighters. I actually think Pagan, when he starts graduating to 10 and 12 rounders, I think he's going to even be better. I mean, I think he's one of these guys. Tomorrow is 10 rounds. Yep. And I think he's going to be I think he's going to show out, over time, his intelligence, his skill set kind of shows out very well. So I think there's always an issue of, okay, if a guy's extremely fast and explosive and powerful, there's always that danger, like Schofield did to Tevin Farmer.
Yeah.
But I think Schofield's also shown that, he gets frustrated in fights. He starts losing some focus at times. So that's a guy. I mean, there are a lot of guys. I mean, the guy who lost to Abdullah Mason, Sam Nooks, would be a really, again, that would be a reach, but that's a style fight that would be really interesting. Maybe that's maybe that could be makeable. If not next for Pagan, then later on in 2026. But that's, that getting to the world level name, he gave Mason a very good fight. He's a good fighter. Somebody like that.
I like that. There's even another guy. He fought Floyd Schofield as well. Renee Tellis Giron.
Yeah.
He gave Schofield a pretty good fight as well. I think he's in the top 10 rankings also. I think that's a good fight. So there are definitely some pretty good step-up fights if Pagan is able to take care of business tomorrow.
I think so. But the concern I had with Pagan is, not getting sucked into the other guy's fight. Okay, we've seen him in wars, and it's not the first time. It's like, okay, you are a good boxer. You have a good amateur skills. Like, use your legs appropriately. I'm not saying run. You got to know how to win those fights. And he showed that against Montgomery. Let me tell you, Montgomery is going to make that fight crazy against anybody. That's his style. He's going right after you. You got to learn. That's an impressive win. Okay, Maybe you have a guy with not the same exact foot speed. All right. Can you make it a little more to your advantage, where it's not as frantic and frenetic? Can you impose your style a little bit more? That's really what I want to see.
That's a great point. Now let's get to the co-main real quick. How do you see that? I mean, obviously we mentioned Persoon. She fought Bumgardner before. Bumgardner relinquished the title. She was undisputed, relinquished the title. It'll be undisputed again if somebody was able to, whoever's able to pull this off. Do you feel like this fight here, the winner will be seeing Alicia Bumgardner?
I think it's really possible. I think if Vera looks good, it could be a fresh matchup. I don't see why that couldn't happen. Let's put it that way. And I also think that Vera has the skill set to be problematic for Bumgardner, because the thing I like about her is she knows who she is. I have fast hands. I'm a boxer. I'm going to get in and out. That's my style. And Bumgardner, as we've seen, she wins fights by, she's a puncher. But if she's not landing anything big, you can get some rounds off her.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really good matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I know Vera in the fighter meeting, she told me it's about opportunity. I can move up to 130. I can come down to 126, 122. So she feels like she has range just as far as the weight is concerned. She's just looking for the best opportunity. So, I mean, there are a lot of fights there if Vera's able to win, Obviously, to me, currently, the boogeyman at 135 is Caroline Dubois. She's somebody that's making a lot of noise. Even at the lower weights, you have Ellie Scottney down there, I believe, at 126. So it's some good fights.
There's a lot of fights for her, and Vera looks very good on tape. It's like you watch her fights, you immediately see that she's well seasoned, that she knows the sport well. She's a legitimate talent, but she's in against it tomorrow. She's in against a real world-class fighter, that has power and awkwardness. So it should be good.
All right. Well, listen, you're an unofficial judge tomorrow. I'm looking forward to seeing your scores and how you scoring these things.
Well, thanks, Naji, and best of luck on the call. And I look forward to doing this again in the future. Terrific.
Sounds good. Adam, thank you very much for your time, man.
All right.